Good evening, residents of Everett, Washington. I'd like to call to order the Everett City Council meeting of May 22, 2024. The council meets all requirements of the State of Washington Open Public Meetings Act. Community members are welcome to join either in person, remote via Zoom, or by calling in. For those who wish to participate in future via Zoom, you'll find the instructions to register for public comment on the City of Everett website under the City Council Department. We ask the audience refrain from clapping, cheering, or booing, and no signage of any kind are allowed to be in the chambers. Please note that we do not allow comment of any kind of campaignings, whether for or against ballot measures or candidates running for office. We do not accept comments focused on personal matters that are unrelated to city business. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Mayor Franklin.
Here.
Councilmember Ryan.
Here.
Councilmember Bader.
Here.
Councilmember Toohey.
Here.
Councilmember Vogely.
Here.
Councilmember Fosse.
Here.
Vice President Zarlingo.
Here.
President Schwab.
Here. At this time, I'd like to ask Councilmember Ryan to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes, please stand if you're able.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask Councilmember Fosse to read the land acknowledgement.
The City Council wishes to acknowledge the original inhabitants of this place, the Shadhopes people and their successors, the Tulalip tribes. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, gathered on, and taken care of these lands and waters. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. We will strive to be honest about our past mistakes and bring about a future that includes their people, stories, and voices to form a more just and equitable society.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes for May 15th, 2024?
Councilmember Ryan so moves.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Councilmember Bader.
Yes.
Councilmember Toohey.
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely.
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse.
Yes.
Vice President Zarlingo.
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening, President Schwab and council and community. I have a few announcements tonight. First, thank you to our wonderful volunteers for a successful Clean Everett Day. We had a number of staff and neighborhood leaders that volunteered. I also want to thank Rubatino for partnering with us and providing dumpsters and free compost. A special shout out to Andrea and Tom, who volunteered at the Sequoia site, as well as our friends at Everett Youth Soccer. It was a quite packed house with both soccer and a dumpster event, and very busy, and you guys were all really cooperative, so thank you for that work. And also we had some brand new volunteers that really helped out at North. Riley and Allen, they picked up trash all around the school and QFC, these young volunteers, so just really big thank you to them. And you can find out more about adopting a street and joining neighborhood groups and everything at communications@everettwa.gov. Saturday was also busy. We had welcomed a new business to Everett. I had the privilege of welcoming Slide In Mobile Detailing to their new location on Rucker, to Kevin and his team. They were already recognized by Seattle as the best auto detailing, so I was thinking we needed to have an Everett recognition for companies like that as well. And then today, I was honored to welcome Maritime Institute together with Councilmember Ryan, a new Maritime Education Institute at the port that will help provide safety training and other kinds of essential training for the maritime industry. We've been wanting that for a very long time, so exciting to see that. And then I did want to share with our council, as you know, Susie Haugen announced in her retirement that was going to be coming up in June, several months ago. And her leadership in the finance department as our finance director has been amazing. Her knowledge and expertise and commitment to the city will forever be appreciated. She was with us for more than 37 years. She's still with us, but as she puts it, it's time to get out of her head out of spreadsheets and her hands in the dirt. So she wants to spend a little bit more time gardening. We recently promoted Heidi Brillante to be, who is our budget manager, to be our new finance director, and she's here in the audience. Wave, Heidi. She is starting her work now, leading our finance team as our new finance director, and so really welcome and thank you for stepping into that new role, Heidi. Heidi came to us almost a couple years ago now from the state auditor's office, and she actually had audited the city for 3 years and still came to work for us, so thank you for that. And due to Heidi's leadership in the budget team, our government and finance officers, we received the Government and Finance Officers Distinguished Budget Award with a special recognition in long-range financial planning, and that's really largely due to Heidi's great work since she's been with the team, so thank you very much for that. Susie's still here, but she's taking a lot of well-deserved vacation. But she'll be here advising the team and doing some work mostly remotely through the end of June, and then we will be sending her on her way. So if you want to reach out with finance questions, please reach out to Heidi, and of course, always copy Jennifer. And then finally, this month is Asthma and Allergy Awareness Month. And one of our Everett residents asked me to issue a proclamation to help bring attention to the challenges faced by those suffering from asthma and allergies. And this is really near and dear to me because when I was growing up, my brother suffered from severe asthma, and I witnessed what that's like to see asthma attacks in your family and how scary it is. And so really wanted to support this proclamation. From the latest Snohomish County Health Assessment, approximately 7.2 of Snohomish County students suffer from asthma. Fewer than half the people with asthma report being given an asthma action plan, which is a key prevention of asthma attacks. And this month also honors those suffering from allergies. Children with food allergies are 2 to 4 times more likely to have asthma or other allergic diseases. And with that, I'm proud to proclaim May as Asthma and Allergy Awareness Month in Everett. And Leah, I'd love to invite you up, District 2 resident, to accept the proclamation and then say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor Cassie Franklin. And I want to say thank you to the City Council and the City of Everett for proclaiming May as Asthma and Allergy Awareness Month. This is a very personal topic to my family, but we're not alone. According to the Washington State Department of Health, Washington has one of the highest asthma rates in the U.S. Approximately 1 in 8 women, 1 in 14 men, and 8 to 11% of middle school and high school age children have asthma. Nearly 100 Washingtonians die from asthma each year. Nationwide, there are more than 22 million adults and 4.5 million children with asthma. In the U.S., food allergies affect an estimated 33 million people, 1 in 10 adults, and approximately 8% of children. That's 1 in 13 children, or about 2 children per classroom. And more than 40% of those children experience a severe reaction, with 25% first-time anaphylactic reactions occurring in school. It is also worth noting that minority groups bear disproportionate hardships in managing asthma and food allergies. There is no cure for either disease. I urge you to learn more at aafa.org and foodallergy.org. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being here. And with that, I have no further comments this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now it's time for public comment, which includes written comment acknowledgement. Under our rules, written comments shall be considered in the same manner as oral comments. The commenter must provide their name and city of residence. Written comments submitted with this information will be made part of the official record. So good evening, Angie. Do we have any written comments or anyone signed up to speak?
Good evening, President Schwab. We do. We'll start with written comments. The following are in regards to the Clark Park gazebo. Magali Quinones, Kathleen Smith, Carrie Gillette, Patrick Hall, Andrea Tucker, Peter and Denise Held, Shelley Whitcop, John Stedger, Sherry Steele Hayden, Elizabeth Breen, Trigve Anderson, and Henry Cotter. The majority wish to wait till item number 12. So we have one general public comment right now from Leo. If you could please come to the podium and state your full name, city of residence, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Waywell Lorge, City of Everett. I'm standing here like some senators in the past stood here. Our mayor, I thought I'd never say this, but I'm going to. Cassandra is her formal name, and she's doing a darn good job. I had a whole speech laid out. I got up at 3 o'clock this morning. All you guys were sleeping. I had 2 coyotes. Now, I need to find out about this. Fighting in the yard. Male and female, you know why they were fighting. People are walking their dogs around Everett like nothing's going to happen. The coyote problem's getting worse. Right? Let's do something about it. Otherwise, people are going to be taking guns out and killing these. They should be captured. I made a phone call to the Department of Game. They're on it. The city of Everett seems like they don't give a damn. They better, because if people start getting, these coyotes in other parts of the country get pretty violent. Now it's mating season. And it just happened right in front of my house. And I didn't like what I saw. So we got to work on this. Otherwise, people are going to lose jobs and probably lives because they're getting meaner. That's it.
Thank you, and that's it for until item number 12.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to council comments and liaison reports. Councilmember Ryan.
Great, good evening, everybody. Been a busy week. Last Thursday, I attended the mayor's drug task force, and it was another really great event, very informative. There were 9 different representatives from 9 different organizations and programs, and they did kind of like a round robin where you could join at whichever table you wanted to learn more about that program. And it was a good way to get an understanding of how different groups and different cultures are approaching the opioid crisis and recovery and support for families. There were folks from Representative Larson's office, Governor Inslee's office, Dave DeMarco, our police chief or fire chief, was there. Some folks from different recovery networks, and so just hearing, getting that holistic approach and view of what people are doing to address addiction was really helpful. So kudos to everybody that joined, and thank you to everybody that provided their time and information. Over the weekend, I attended the Fisherman Village Music Festival, which was a total blast, and it was really amazing just to see downtown activated on a weekend with so many people, and a lot of people from out of Everett coming to Everett to spend their money, which I'm always happy to see. And just a good reminder, too, for the work that I've been doing to fill vacant storefronts and just make sure that we have continuity of open businesses downtown. So kudos to Everett Music Initiative as well for putting on another great event. Monday, I attended the Lowell Neighborhood Association meeting. It was very well attended, and folks from our comp plan joined to share more about comp plan 2044 plans and fielded questions from folks and did a really great job. So thanks to staff for all that. And Heidi, congratulations. Welcome to the team. We are very happy to have you. I had a chance to work with you before when you were with the state, and so I'm familiar with your work, and Everett's very lucky to have you at the helm. So glad you're here. And Susie, wherever you are, hopefully you're not listening, but thank you so much for all you've done for Everett, and I wish you the best in retirement. Very well deserved.
Thank you. Councilmember Bader.
Thank you, Council President. Just a quick update. Went to the library board meeting last night, a pretty short meeting. Their major activity was updating their rules of conduct policy, mostly around rules about bringing weapons into the library to conform with state law. So much like we often have to do with updating the city code and charter as well. So that was what happened there. And other than that, no report, no comments. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Tui.
This evening at 5 o'clock, we had our Safe Community Committee meeting. We had a really great meeting, lots of information. The first thing we had was a CERT program overview, which is the Community Emergency Response Team that is starting to get up again and running since COVID. And Director Jim Sandy was there. He also talked about the Hazard Mitigation Plan, which is the draft update is now at FEMA for approval, and when that gets completed, that will come back to the council, and he thought possibly July for our approval. So that was great to hear about that. Tons of information. And then next week, the Chief DeRoos will come here with a briefing on the flock safety camera technology that he received 2 grants for, and that will help provide community safety. There's a lot of information on that. He also said there's information should be up on the website in the police side of the website and also a video. So lots of information there, but it looks like a great tool for our police officers to be able to utilize to help continue to keep our city safe. So really appreciated all that work, and congratulations to Heidi. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Vogely.
Hello, good evening. I was able to attend the Transportation Advisory Committee meeting the third Thursday, so last Thursday. Well, I didn't get to talk because my voice was still gone, but I did listen quite a lot. And the Vision Zero folks put up a really fantastic presentation. And yeah, I'm not sure if you can watch those meetings. So I bet Jennifer might answer that question when it comes around, because she's usually pretty good at telling me things. But yeah, it was good Vision Zero. That is trying to get, no deaths by vehicles in the very near future. And also, today is World Goth Day, so if you feel unseen or unheard, I see you and I hear you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Fosse.
Thanks. I wanted to touch on the Safe Community meeting that we had. If there is anybody interested in finding out how they themselves and their community can be more prepared for emergencies and what it looks like for our city if there was an earthquake, or where we would go, or how we can work with our neighbors to make things safer, I highly encourage you to participate in that 8-week course. I went through it, and I learned some really, really good tips and helped me engage with my neighbors and make things a little bit safer, more prepared for all of us. So definitely sign up for CERT, taking that course if you get the chance. It's worth it. Then the discussion on the flock safety cameras was also very exciting. So if you get a chance to watch the Safe Community meeting, definitely do that. One of the cameras, most of the cameras by far will just be license plate recognition cameras, and that will help with things like your amber alerts and your silver alerts and all of the issues that we have with car theft. We know that's been a problem. Our city has had that problem. This will definitely help with that. But it'll also help with some of the issues we've had with gun violence. And I know some of you have heard me talk about Jackson Park as being a concern area since I've been up here. And Jackson Park will be one of the areas that will get its own camera to kind of help with that. And there's a lot of safety precautions in place to protect folks, but it will definitely help with our police force and some of their limited resources and still be responsive to the community and the needs that we have. So that was a pretty exciting presentation that we had. I wanted to second all the third and fourth, the congratulations to Heidi. Thank you. And thank you for your service to our city and our community. And I really appreciated all the education and the information about asthma. I didn't realize it was so prevalent. So thank you for sharing that information. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Zarlingo.
Well, I do want to thank everybody who wrote in and who came here tonight to comment. We really appreciate that. Also, congratulations to Susie and congratulations to Heidi. I'll chime in on that. Last night I attended the neighborhood meeting for Pinehurst Beverly Park. In addition to discussions about National Night Out plans and a neighborhood watch, they had a presentation from Chief DeRoos about this flock camera and license plate recognition program. I did a great job of explaining that. Again, we'll be hearing more about that in the week to come. I think some powerful technology there with also reasonable respect to privacy and a kind of a non-discriminatory attitude. So that may help understand a little better what's going on in several of these parks where there are particular difficulties for the neighborhoods there. Also, this afternoon attended the Snohomish County Tomorrow Steering Committee. I'm typically the city's representative on that group. This is a group of people, mostly elected officials from around the county, trying to coordinate all the things that we'll do better if we do collectively as a county. So that included a long presentation today by the county's chief demographer, talking a lot about growth. This is the kind of info we need to make policy decisions and resource allocations. Some interesting stuff out of that are just a couple of bullet points. One of them is that recently 2/3 of the total population growth in the county has been in the cities. 3/4 of that growth, population growth, is in the southwest urban growth area. So that gives you an idea of the way things are going that way. And again, helping us make better policy decisions and allocate resources. Also, this group is working on tourism coordination. One of the things I think the mayor has mentioned before that helps us in terms of attracting tourism and the benefits that they bring is to have enough collective attractions here in the county. So we have a number of different things here. It's nice if we can coordinate together in terms of messaging, getting that out there, and having enough of those attractions to bring people to Snohomish County and to the Seattle area. So real good work on there, real effective stuff that helps prosperity and jobs and revenue for the city and the county in general. Also a presentation by the PUD. They're working to figure out how to handle the increasing needs of power in this area as we have more electric vehicles and we're using less fossil fuels. They're looking out 20 years or so. Nothing that you really have to worry about except to know that there are people working on this diligently and looking ahead so that we do not end up in brownouts or blackouts kinds of things, rolling brownouts and blackouts that sometimes happen. And then the last one, bringing some access to more of the county, a broadband access plan for the entire county. So a lot of work going on that way. That's the kind of thing that elected officials and groups like this coordinate to do. So if you have questions about any of those topics, obviously email to me or to the county on that. We can provide more information, but that's what we're doing to try to plan for the future. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. For my report, congratulations, Heidi. As in a previous employment as a director of an agency that was actually audited by her. Heidi's fair, she's detailed, very smart, professional, and competent. And I passed, by the way. And so I'm grateful that you decided to serve here in Everett, so thank you for that. Also, I attended the Harborview Seahurst Glen Haven Neighborhood Association, that's a long title, last night. There were representatives from the Parks Department, and they were looking at some plans to do with one of the sports courts at Howarth Park. And the mayor was there and did a presentation on the levee lid lift. Thank you very much for that. And it seemed to get some good support, and there was a lot of good questions. I've had 3 neighborhood meetings here in the last week and a half, and I'm still seeing some of the same themes: public safety, traffic, and vehicle noise. So just heads up on that. Also, I just heard here an hour ago that the Boeing firefighters are still locked out after negotiations failed this week, and will be back on the picket line. I'm very, very discouraged. I can't think of, especially what's going on in the Boeing company, that we all love and respect. This is very unfortunate. So I just want to urge the leaders and the decision makers to make an agreement and get these workers back. Thanks for that. Moving on to administrative report.
Yes, just a couple things. You might have heard recently about recent change related to public defenders that's been recommended to the state Supreme Court by the Washington State Bar Association Board of Governors. It would greatly increase the standards for indigent defense and caseload limits, which has challenges. Sounds positive, but actually has lots of challenges. So the mayor has joined all the Snohomish County mayor, I think it looked like all of the Snohomish County mayors, in issuing a letter with concerns for the impacts related to that.
Executive Summers joined it as well.
Great, yeah. AWC submitted a similar, Association of Washington Cities submitted a similar letter. Those changes obviously would have budget impacts. They'd likely really just be difficult to even implement due to the workforce issues, availability of attorneys and staff. So just wanted to make sure that you all were aware that we're concerned about the change and also engaged on the topic. Council.
So question on the size of impact that it would create for the city?
Oh, I don't
Have we got
I
to
don't know
that
if we
point yet?
quantified it. I know that, AWC has some quantification of
Okay.
it, but.
At some point, we'll get that.
Yeah, I don't have exact numbers in the budget, but by 2027, it would require us to hire at least 3 times as many public defenders as we currently do. Currently, our outside public defender firm has, I believe, 8 lawyers, so they would have to expand to about 24, plus another social worker, plus several staff support people. It would be a very, very large impact. And our prosecutors at the same time would continue to handle 500 cases a year while their caseload goes down to 120 a year.
So we'll get further report on this. Okay, thank you.
May we please have a copy of the letter?
Oh, yeah, I will, so copy the letter and I heard on a call with AWC that statewide, it's in the realm of like several $100 million. And so, but I'll get you guys more specifics. So the letter and the stats. Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Councilmember Vogely, it doesn't appear that the Transportation Advisory Committee meetings are recorded. Of course, there's minutes that'll get posted probably when the next agenda gets posted in the Agenda Center. So a lot of our planning commissions all recorded it on the YouTube site for the city, but some of the other boards and commissions use Teams and aren't required to be recorded other than taking minutes, so. Vehicle noise just came up at Safe Community Committee as well, but it's on my radar to circle back with staff and really try to identify. There are like 2 or 3 parental leaves that came into play for the staff members that are working on that subject. So it has taken a long time, I know, but for some really valid reasons. So, but it's on the radar to get a good timeline for you. Last thing, just wanted to highlight for council the Memorial Day ceremony that is on Monday from 11 to 12 at the Port of Everett at the Pacific Rim Plaza. So we hope that you might be able to attend that. All right.
Thank you. City Attorney, do you have a report?
There's no executive session tonight, and just briefly, I have been in communication with our planning director who is working on the amendment to the zoning code proposed by Councilmember Fossey last week that would allow birthing centers on the ground floor of some zones, and I expect to have something to you shortly.
Thank you. Okay. All right, moving on to consent items, items number 1 through 8. Do I hear a motion?
Councilmember Bader so moves all the consent items.
Councilmember Ryan seconds?
Okay, motion and second's been made. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
Councilmember Bader?
Yes.
Councilmember Toohey?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely?
Yes.
Councilmember Fossey?
Yes.
Vice President Zarlingo?
Yes.
President Schwab?
Yes. Okay, moving on to item number 9, Council Bill 2404-05, third and final reading. Adopt an ordinance closing the Special Construction Fund entitled Fire Station 2 and Fire Station Number 6, additions and alterations, Fund 342, Program 029, and amended by ordinance number 3467-22. Do I have a motion?
Move to pass that.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Are there any questions?
Just quick question.
Yeah.
Was that ordinance number read correctly there at the end? I didn't.
Mine's different on my agenda.
I have ordinance number 3867-22.
Thanks for that clarification.
Okay, thanks for checking on me. All right, any questions, any other comments? Okay, clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
Councilmember Bader?
Yes.
Councilmember Toohey?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely?
Yes.
Councilmember Fossey?
Yes.
Vice President Zarlingo?
Yes.
President Schwab?
Yes. Moving on to item number 10, Council Bill 2404-06, third and final reading. Adopt an ordinance relating to uniform requirements for food service establishments and non-FSE FOG dischargers of publicly owned treatment works, repealing and replacing ordinance 3071-08, chapter 14.42 of the Everett Municipal Code. Do I have a motion?
Member Bader moves.
Okay.
Councilmember Ryan seconds?
Okay, a motion is second. Any comments or questions? Okay, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
Councilmember Bader?
Yes.
Councilmember Toohey?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely?
Yes.
Councilmember Fossey?
Yes.
Vice President Zarlingo?
Yes.
President Schwab?
Yes. Okay, item number 11, Council Bill 2404-07, third and final reading. Adopt an ordinance relating to uniform requirements for users of publicly owned treatment works, repealing and replacing ordinance 3070-08, chapter 14.40 of the Everett Municipal Code. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second's been made. Is there any questions or comments? Okay, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
Councilmember Bader?
Yes.
Councilmember Tui?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely?
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse?
Yes.
Vice President Zarlingo?
Yes.
President Schwab?
Yes. Okay, now we have a briefing and on proposal action item number 12. So we have our Parks Director here to start the briefing. Thank you very much for being here.
Also your mic.
Good evening, Bob Leonard, Parks and Facilities Director for the City of Everett. I'm here tonight to present information in support of the funding ordinance for the Clark Park renovation project. How does he do that? There we go. I have a short video here that will show what the renovation project will look like. There you go. As you can see, the Clark Park renovation project includes the addition of approximately 30,000 square foot off-leash dog area. Parks plans to retain the existing sidewalk through the dog park and add sally ports at each end of the sidewalk for people to enter and exit the dog park. Parks has added light posts around the dog park for increased security and plans to sync the hours of the dog park to those of the Everett School District tennis courts to further activate the space until 10 p.m. each night. Parks will further retain all trees, protecting them with anti-digging barriers over the root zones. At the southeast corner, we will retain the Clark Park sign, installing it on the new fencing, which is reminiscent of the gazebo railing design. You can also see here the main sally port, which retains the post, beam, and corbel design seen in the gazebo. Although not shown in this picture, there will also be river rock at the base of the post, which is once again reminiscent of the gazebo design. This is the view from the northeast corner. This is the view from the northwest corner. Here you can see the other sally port, which grants access to the dog park from the park. This is the view from the southwest corner, which is where you will find the maintenance access. And finally, this is the top view looking down from the southeast corner. As part of this project, Parks will disassemble the gazebo, protecting and storing it off-site for potential future use. I want to assure everyone that this will not be storing the gazebo indefinitely. However, there are several challenges with the gazebo in determining a new location, and this will take some time. But as an example, an idea we are currently considering is locating the gazebo at Harborview, which may make a great location for a possible wedding venue. If we run into severe obstacles with relocating the gazebo, we would also consider working with one of our great partners like the Everett Museum in the future. There have been questions and suggestions about leaving the gazebo and including it in the dog park. Staff feels strongly that leaving the gazebo in the dog park is not the right decision. There are several concerns with this option. As you will see in the next slide, the gazebo is very large. The size and the location of the gazebo would create entrapment areas that could make dogs feel cornered, which could result in dogs feeling threatened and the need to protect themselves. Also, these tight spaces already create hiding spots for illicit or illegal activity. Adding the dog park around these problem areas will only make them worse. Also, we do not consider the use of the gazebo with the dog park to be compatible. We believe the gazebo, if retained, may continue to be used as it has, which could create conflict between the two different user groups. And unfortunately, debris is consistently left in the gazebo, including trash, drugs and drug paraphernalia, and soiled items, which is certainly not compatible with the dog park. There have been suggestions about moving the gazebo to another part of the park or to another site. However, the gazebo is much bigger than it looks. As you see here on this slide, in red is a large gazebo that you could typically buy at Costco, about 12 foot by 12 foot. The Clark Park gazebo, which is with its access area, is 39 feet by 26 feet. The size makes it extremely difficult to move. This is one of the reasons why it will be disassembled. Again, as I have already stated, Parks will retain the pieces of the gazebo so that it can be reused in another location when funding and a determination of where becomes available. In the gazebo's place, Parks will add a commemorative marker and plaque. We will also add signage about the history of the Clark Park, which will include photos of the gazebo. And finally, as you have seen, the gazebo architecture has been considered in the Sallyport entryways and fencing design of the new dog park. This slide shows the detail of elements that will be included in the renovation of the park, such as the additional lighting, fence design, the gazebo commemorative marker, and dog park signage. And that includes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I'll start off here, the race, for comment. In original ARPA dollars, I proposed, and with consultation with you, to put a gazebo there at Harborview Park. Then this issue came up, and so I think I guess the question is, you can build anything, but my idea was maybe build something similar in design and maybe even provide some sort of plaque or recognition of that gazebo at Harborview. And have you thought about the budget for that item?
We don't have any preliminary numbers. We'd have to take a look at the scope and size, but we were working on some typical numbers before, just for another gazebo. But putting this one there would probably be a little bit more than that, but just because we're using the lumbers and those types of things. But I think it's certainly doable.
It's certainly some sort of, maybe not specifically the same lumber, because we want it to last, but should like to match the design, and I'd certainly like to use some of the allocated ARPA dollars on my behalf for the project, so we can work on that with a proposal later. I know there was lots of projects that I've been talking to you about, and I would like to consider that.
Absolutely, that was something we'd be happy to work on.
Okay, thank you. Question, comment?
No, I agree with Council President Schwab, and I would be willing to allocate some of my funds also.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Zarlingo.
Well, recalling the work to try to preserve what we could of the Bothany, the historic Bothany House at Thornton Sullivan, what is now Thornton Sullivan Park. And I know there were concerns about that with respect to lead-based paint. In that case, also some asbestos. Given the Clark Park gazebo is an old painted structure, I guess is that another concern about this as well in terms of reuse of the lumber?
We don't necessarily have that concern. Throughout the years, the Clark Park gazebo has been renovated a number of times. I'm actually not sure how much of the lumber is original to the actual construction. I'd guess not much. Okay. So there's not necessarily that concern.
Okay. I think the lead-based paints were phased out in the late 70s or so, so it'll depend on how recently. And
yeah, since gazebo really started probably having issues more so when the tennis courts went in and the park was divided in half. It used to be a much bigger park with the gazebo in the center. The tennis courts went in. The position of the gazebo is now pretty awkward in the park. The fencing started going up in the 90s. Many renovations have happened to the gazebo since then. I don't have the concerns of.
And then it looks like the dog park will be maybe 40% or so of the remaining park. And then are the tennis courts school district property, or is that city property and part of Clark Park?
The tennis courts are on Everett School District property, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilmember Vogely.
I know that there's public comment.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to wait till
Okay.
public.
Yeah,
comment
this is more about
happens.
questions about the proposal, yeah.
I do want to know, though, I know that there's been a lot of questions, and maybe they'll come up from the community about the actual cost of
removing the gazebo. I know that there's a lot of cost involved, and I see just a couple numbers on the spreadsheet. So if you could find that for us to peruse before the actual vote, that would be great.
No problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, the vote will be in 2 weeks, so, yeah. Councilmember Ryan.
Just a request that we go to public comment.
Okay.
I just had one clarification. So that triangle that was next to the dog park, is that where the playground is?
Yes.
Okay, that's all. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, now we'll open the meeting for public comment.
Okay, so there's one individual online. Chris, if you could unmute and turn your camera on, there you go. And I'm going to share my timer in just a moment here. And if you could state your full name and city of residence, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. I don't hear you. One moment, Chris. Sorry, Chris, I can't hear you. One moment. Okay, Chris, can you try speaking now?
There we go.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Okay, yes, we can. Thank you. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. My name's Chris Moore, and I'm speaking from Seattle, Washington today. I'm the executive director of the Washington Trust for Historic Preservation, and I thank you for the opportunity to comment this evening. I want to just kind of go over three components, I think, to this issue about the gazebo, and it's principle, process, and precedent. So real quickly on each, I've heard essentially two primary reasons for removing the gazebo. One, that it has been the site of illicit activity in the park, and removing it will help prevent this activity. I think the gazebo itself is not the root cause of the unwanted activity taking place, and removing the gazebo will not solve this problem overall. And as I've mentioned before in talking about this, the proposed dog park includes fencing. So it begs the question of why demolish the gazebo to begin. Let's see if the fence will actually help with decreasing some of the unwanted activity at the park. The other rationale I've heard is that the gazebo is not compatible with the dog park. And this is a little, I think, backwards from those of us who are advocates for historic resources. The gazebo is nearly 100 years old. As the primary contributing historic element of Clark Park, the dog park should be designed in a manner compatible to the gazebo, not the reverse. The dog park should be designed in a way that utilizes and enhances the historic gazebo, which clearly predates this idea of a dog park. So deference should be shown to the gazebo as a historically significant resource. In terms of process, the city of Everett has an ordinance in place for administering the city's Register of Historic Places. That ordinance seeks input from the Commission for resources included in the city's register. For changes to those resources, applicants must seek a certificate of appropriateness for those changes. And when a C of A is issued, it is because the proposed change has been deemed appropriate in terms of the treatment of that resource. In other words, the proposed action avoids or minimizes adverse impact to the historic resource. So it is incongruous for a certificate of appropriateness to be issued if the proposed action is demolition. So the city's preservation ordinance does include a process for seeking demolition of a listed resource, and that process is to seek a waiver. The Parks Department sought a C of A for this demolition, and the Everett Historical Commission, rightly, in our opinion, opted against voting on a certificate of appropriateness, noting it was the wrong process. So we think Parks should rightly have returned to the Historic Commission to seek a waiver. And then finally, the last bit is precedent. As a statewide advocacy organization, we simply think it's bad precedent for a city to be demolishing city-owned resources listed in the register. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. And if anyone has any questions, I'm certainly happy to do my best to answer them.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to the chambers, and if John could please come to the podium. And please state your full name and, oh, actually, can you hit the right button on the base? There we go. Oh, do it again, please. Thank you.
Perfect.
And state your full name and city of residence. You have 3 minutes to speak, and there's a timing system on the right there. When the light turns yellow, you'll have 30 seconds left.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is John Phillips, Bayside, Everett, Washington. Good evening, council members, mayor, community at large. My name is John Phillips. I'm the chair of the vice chair of the Bayside Neighborhood Association. Sorry, I gave myself a promotion. You will hear from the chair. I'm here to express my support for moving the Clark Park gazebo. The gazebo has been a constant issue for the public access to the park by neighbors, the people who live closest to Clark Park, and they're here tonight. The gazebo is a center of crime. The crime includes vandalism, it includes drug use, drug selling, and there's also been violent crime over the last 2 years, including a stabbing. Current members of the Executive Committee of the Bayside Neighborhood Association are committed advocates for Clark Park. We have been hosting informal gathering, themed events, and cleanups at the park for over 6 years, and are a group of advocated for removing the fence back in 2020, so the gazebo could be used to host musical events. Since 2021, after COVID, we have organized both caroling at the park, art in the park, a 100-year celebration for Trinity Lutheran Church, and allowing local schools, churches, and professional musicians to perform at the gazebo. We also host Bark in the Park, which is a dog event, and that's been very successful over the last 3 years, and we also host our National Night Out there. However, despite our efforts to enhance the park and make it a welcoming space for everyone, the gazebo persists to attract negative behavior and illegal activity. It is not only an unpleasant sight, but a security threat and a hassle for the city. It detracts from the beauty and potential of the park and prevents law-abiding citizens from using it. We urge the council to approve the removal of the gazebo as soon as possible and to replace it with a dog park. A dog park is needed in the Everett metro area and will be a benefit to the residents in the future. A dog park will demonstrate the values and goals of the Bayside neighborhood and the city as a whole, a space that will promote positive interaction, supporting housing equity and civic pride. Thank you for everything you do for our beautiful city.
Thank you. Next, if Christina could please come to the podium. And Christina, you've been given 5 minutes, and if you can state your full name, city of residence, and go ahead.
My name is Christina Sim. I live in the city of Everett, and I'm a Bayside neighborhood resident. Good evening. My house faces Clark Park and the gazebo. I'm here today to talk about the health and safety of my immediate neighborhood surrounding Clark Park, as well as the health and safety of my neighbors. When we heard that the gazebo was being removed from Clark Park, it was the best news about the park that we'd heard in years. We celebrated. Then we found out that some factions want the gazebo to stay. So we find ourselves again trying to have you hear what life is like living beside Clark Park. At this point in time, it should come to no surprise to anyone who knows about the gazebo that this is a place of ongoing drug dealing, drug use, violence, crime, garbage dumping, rotting food, discarded clothing, dirty needles, human feces and urine, yelling, swearing, screaming, encampments, filth, and general unsavory mayhem. And these are the things that the residents who live around Clark Park deal with very, very frequently. When I moved into my home on Oaks Avenue 14 years ago, Clark Park was a beautiful place to visit. I walked my dogs there morning and evening and felt completely safe. At that time, the gazebo was fenced off from use, which seemed strange to me as I had no background information as to why that was. Then when the gazebo was freed from the chain link fence, I soon found out why it had been fenced off in the first place. It immediately reverted to the disgusting place it is today. And immediately, I no longer felt safe walking my dogs in the park. my own neighborhood park, and I no longer feel safe there. I had to deal with someone setting fire to some of the trees on my property that surround my home. One of my neighbors has on numerous occasions seen gazebo users drop their pants and defecate in front of her home. Another neighbor was besieged with somebody under the influence of drugs banging on her door when only she and her young daughter were home. One neighbor videotaped someone lighting a fire in the gazebo. This is our neighborhood. How are we to feel safe? According to the official emergency call records for Clark Park over the past 3 years, there were approximately 2 911 calls per week. Now, sometimes there's several per week, sometimes just one, about the park, specifically the gazebo. How many other neighborhoods have to access the police as often as we do? My 2 grandchildren, who also live close to the park, are not allowed to play there by their parents' wishes. I agree with them. It's truly frustrating to not be able to bring children to the park. I cannot tell you how heartbreaking it is to hear my 2-year-old granddaughter crying and begging to go to the swings at Clark Park, which she can see from my house. So instead, we have to drive to the kids' playground at Alverson Park because it's safe there. This, to my mind, is shameful, it's disgraceful, that our own local park is unsafe for our young children to use due to the abhorrent conditions of the gazebo and the proximity of drug use to the playground. How many other Everett neighborhoods have to deal with this? I would hope that any person with a conscience making a decision about the park would choose children over the gazebo. During high school tennis season at the tennis courts at Clark Park, we often hear kids from other towns and school districts making fun of quote-unquote ghetto Everett because of the presence of quote-unquote bums in the park. I think we should all be embarrassed that this is how our park is perceived. Clark Park is a joke to people who don't live here. And of course, during the school year, we get to see the high school kids going to the park to buy drugs. I would hazard a guess that none of the people who want the gazebo to stay in place live anywhere near Clark Park and are not in the least bit affected by the crime that continues on a near daily basis. I warned that they would not like it if someone adamantly dictated an unsafe, unhealthy environment in their neighborhood. What if the peaceful enjoyment of their homes was taken away from them? I'm sure you would see them doing exactly what we're doing here today. It's easy to have nostalgic reverence for concrete and wood structure when it does not affect your life negatively. But the days of the brass bands playing at the gazebo are over. We no longer have women in hoop skirts sporting parasols. Is that it?
Yep.
Yes, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, could Lisa please come to the podium? Lisa?
Why doesn't the police patrol that place a lot more if we got these problems?
Okay.
Come on, Leo.
No, it's the truth.
No, wait. You can wait till after. You'll get your time.
Okay, no, you can put that back. There we go. And state your full name and city of residence. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening, my name is Lisa Phillips. I live in Bayside neighborhood. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I'm here to express my support for the Parks Department to add a dog park to a portion of Clark Park and the removal of the gazebo. The neighborhood has been asking for a dog park since 2010, and we appreciate the transparency and professionalism of the Parks Department, as well as the hardworking and understaffed park rangers and maintenance staff. The gazebo has been the center of problems for the neighbors around the park for years due to drug use, drug sales, violence, vandalism, and crime within the structure. Part of the issue is the gazebo provides shelter and privacy for these activities. Bayside neighborhood has been the only group to use the gazebo, and we must obtain a permit from the Parks Department to even be able to get into it most of the time. Please understand, I like the gazebo. It is in disrepair in its current state and needs a big renovation. My hope is that it will be removed, restored to its former glory, and placed in a park where it will be cared for and appreciated instead of being used as a place to buy, sell, and use drugs, be vandalized, and used as a shelter. There have been arguments to leave the gazebo in place and put a fence around it. This has been done several times, and it doesn't work. It makes the park look institutionalized and unwelcoming, and the gazebo sits unused by anyone, left to deteriorate even further. A fence was put up in 2002, removed in 2008. A fence was put up again in 2009 and removed in 2012. A fence was once again put up in 2012 and removed in 2020. The fence is not a solution, it's a Band-Aid. If a fence is put up around the gazebo again, there will be an unused space included in the northwest corner of the dog park. This could create 2 unsafe corners for dogs and dog owners, and it could create an entrapment area for dogs that may be cornered and become defensive. A fence is not a solution or a viable option. The Parks Department is planning on keeping all trees in the park, doing tree root protection, a new fence around the park, adding new signage and lighting, adding a commemorative marker of the gazebo, and designing entrances to the dog park that pay homage to the look of the gazebo. With all of the housing density coming to Everett, folks living in multifamily housing need a place to take their dogs to play and socialize. Clark Park is a very short walk from downtown and all other areas of the Bayside neighborhood. Neighbors want and need to feel comfortable taking their children and dogs to their neighborhood park, and this is one of the best ways to activate Clark Park and make it a park for everyone to use. Please listen to the neighbors who live around the park who are asking for your help to remove the gazebo and the problems that happen within the gazebo at the park. Thank you for your time and your service to our beautiful city.
Thank you. Next, Andrea, please come to the podium, followed by Teresa. Please state your full name and city of residence, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
I'm Andrea Tucker. Hi, everybody. I feel like my comments are actually comments that were made by the Historical Commission Chair. And I just had a few paragraphs that I wanted to reiterate. I didn't see his letter in the packets or anywhere when I asked Angie for copies of the letters that have been sent. So I didn't know if you had received them. And then I sent one to Angie last night, and I think it's been distributed. But a couple of the comments I want to reiterate. And I lived in Bayside for years, and I was chair of that neighborhood. And in 2010, I don't remember asking for a dog park, but maybe that happened. I'm just going to go over a few of the paragraphs that that Patrick mentioned during the Historical Commission meeting. The city has acknowledged that the demolishing the gazebo won't stop crime in Clark Park. Furthermore, it's very possible that activating the park with dogs and their owners will go a long way towards mitigating those issues, rendering demolition unnecessary. Therefore, there's no particular urgency to demolish the gazebo. It was clear that the intent of the 1993 nomination of the park to the Everett Register, that the gazebo was protected. So that was in 1993. It wasn't when there were hoop skirts or anything like that. Since the park always has been owned by the city and there are no tax benefits to be gained by anybody, protection would have been the primary motivation for placing the gazebo on the register. The purpose of the Everett Register is to encourage preservation of our heritage. Demolition or radical alterations of Everett Register properties are contrary to this goal. As such, they should be approved only in highly exceptional circumstances. For example, if a structure would be destroyed by fire, or if there is overwhelming obvious public benefit, like the hospital expansion a few years ago, the current proposal is not compelling enough reason for such radical action. It should surprise no one that this commission, and that was the Historical Commission, is not predisposed to endorse such exceptions. And the last paragraph I want to read is, the City of Everett is a certified local government under National Historic Preservation Act. This is essentially a sort of National Park Service accreditation. The city has held the designation since the 1980s, again, after hoops carts. Under the State of Washington Certified Local Government Program, requirements and procedures amended 2002. Can I finish the paragraph? It's
Quickly,
short.
quickly.
Okay. Requires that all CLGs enforce appropriate state and local legislation for designation and protection of historic properties. By demolishing one of its own historic properties, the city of Everett would be flagrantly disregarding its obligation as a CLG and would be setting a bad precedent for other owners of historic properties. CLG also helps us get grants.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Teresa.
And thank you, Mayor, for acknowledging our volunteering for the trash.
And please state your full name and city residence, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
My name is Teresa Gemmer. I live in the Bayside neighborhood. I'm a member of the city's Historical Commission, and I'm also a board member of Historic Everett. I'm wearing 2 hats tonight with one purpose only, to advocate for preservation of our history. Per the Everett Municipal Code 2.96.040, the primary responsibility of the Everett Historical Commission is to identify and actively encourage the conservation of the city's historic resources by initiating and maintaining a register of historic places and reviewing proposed changes to register properties. In the past several months, I've heard many stories from Everett citizens about the importance of the Clark Park gazebo to them, which is one reason I'm here today. But I am focusing instead on the process being employed. Chris Moore stole a little of my thunder here. Because Clark Park is unique on the Everett Historic Register as a historic site with a building, rather than a building on a site, this process and the decisions made will serve as a precedent for future. In January 2024, Mayor Franklin announced via Facebook that the Clark Park gazebo was to be removed, ignoring the process set by Everett Code, EMC 19.28.140. In February, the Everett Historical Commission agenda included a request for a waiver in order to demolish the Clark Park gazebo. Changes to buildings in a historic district or changes to contributing structures of a historic site must come before the commission for review as part of the permit process. A waiver of the certificate of appropriateness is required before a permit may be issued to allow whole or partial demolition of a contributing structure. The gazebo is listed as a contributing structure of a designated Everett registered property, Clark Park. The Historic Commission's recommendations on a waiver must then go to City Council for a vote to uphold or deny those recommendations. At the February meeting, the Planning Department changed their request for a waiver to request a certificate of appropriateness, which is what is required for alterations, not for demolitions. This would remove City Council and the public from the decision process and put the decision solely in the hands of the planning director. There are conflicting opinions from the legal and historic preservation experts involved as to whether the commission should be voting on a waiver of, as it was first presented on the February agenda, or on a certificate of appropriateness to tear down the gazebo. The commission voted to table any action until this point is resolved. At the February Historical Commission meeting, we were told that safety concerns and a $400,000 cost to restore the gazebo were the reasons for tearing it down. $400,000 seemed a little high, and the commission asked for a more realistic breakdown of restoration costs for the gazebo, but we have not received any answer to that information yet. Park Department representatives now present their plan as a deconstruction rather than a demolition. Adding the gazebo removal to a parks budget on the council agenda seems to be an attempt to circumvent the process outlined by the code.
If you
To
could
say it would
finish
be
up.
reconstructed, is that my beep? I didn't.
Yeah, please finish up, yeah.
Okay. To say it would be reconstructed in the future is meaningless without an actual plan and budget to do so. When the gazebo is torn down with a screwdriver and wrench or with a wrecking ball, gone is gone. The result's the same. It would have been demolished. And I just want to say the city should not put itself above its own enacted code by voting on the demolition of the Clark Park gazebo as part of a budget package, ignoring the requirement of input from the Historic
Thank you very
Commission.
much. Thank you very much.
Christy, could you please come to the podium, followed by Henry? And please state your full name and city residence. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you. My name is Christy Anderson. I'm a member of the Bayside community in Everett.
The gazebo in Clark Park is a wonderful feature of that park. And there used to be a problem with homeless people sleeping and hanging out at the park, and that used to intimidate some people. I know that because I'm one of those people. The council has already addressed much of the problem with the don't sit and don't lie ordinances, and the police have done a wonderful job of monitoring compliance in that area. In the last 4 times I have been to the park, it's on a walking path for me, I have not seen any inappropriate activities. Now, I'll admit, this is the daytime, but as we have seen from past history, fencing the gazebo didn't help with crime. I think its proximity to Broadway has a lot more issue with the people that congregate there than whether there's a gazebo or not. The gazebo needs some repair, but the overall structure, built on a solid concrete foundation, is in a pretty good condition. Some of the vertical posts have dry rot and may need to be replaced. The Historical Commission was initially told the repair cost for the gazebo was $400,000. They were later informed that that was the total amount to create the dog park. They requested information for the gazebo part of the project and have yet to receive that information. At the Historic Everett, at a public meeting about the gazebo, indicated their willingness to help research and apply for grants and serve as an administrator of grant funds. There are several sources of historic preservation grants listed on the state preservation website. Up until April 11th, I had a dog, and I like dog parks. They're a wonderful place to take pups. I think we can preserve the gazebo and have a dog park. By altering the dog park design by a few feet, I was going to say either north or south, you could include the gazebo in the play equipment part of the park, or include the gazebo in the dog park. After hearing what the Parks Department said about the dog park inclusion, I would say create the fence so that it skirts the gazebo, so people can use the gazebo while their kids are playing on the play equipment. So I'm requesting the City Council to kind of hold over the Parks Department budget request. This will allow the Mayor's Office and the Parks Department to continue to work with the Historic Commission and the Historic Everett to repair the gazebo, which is a wonderful historic feature of the city's oldest park. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Henry, if you could please come to the podium, followed by Jane. Please state your full name and city of residence. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, Henry Cotter, Everett. I'm the chair of the Bayside Neighborhood Association. Thank you, members of the City Council and Mayor Franklin. I'm here to speak in favor of Council Bill 2405-08. When I arrived in Everett in 2020, the Clark Park gazebo was sitting behind a tall chain link fence, the 3rd time since 2002. BNA asked for the fence's removal so that we could use the gazebo as an event space, and Parks was more than happy to work with us on that. Our intention was to use the gazebo as a focal point for events, and we hoped neighbors would also use it. I personally believed in the gazebo, so much so that when I redesigned the Bayside logo, I placed the gazebo prominently in the center of it. BNA has organized, as you've heard, nearly a dozen events in Clark Park in the last 3 years, and we see who does and who does not use this structure. Quite simply, only BNA uses it. The neighbors don't use it, no one else uses it. I've lost count of the number of neighbors who have told me that they will not bring their children to the park to play, nor will they go to the park themselves. Yes, the gazebo is not the cause of this, of the activity, of the drug activity in the park, but it is a major focal point of it. When we first entertained the idea of a dog park in Clark Park, we thought the gazebo would become a complement to it, and we worked with parks toward that goal. However, when we started learning the cost of rehabbing it, the construction of metal shutters and the installation of such shutters, and adding a ramp to make it ADA compliant, which would drastically alter the structure, we reluctantly decided to pursue a park to be used by our neighbors and to remove the gazebo to be placed elsewhere. Now, those who would count themselves as supporters of the gazebo have put out a call to preserve this treasured piece of history, and yet they let it languish behind a fence for 2 decades to decay. They have done nothing. We are the ones who use the gazebo, not them. They argue that the gazebo will be surrounded by a dog fence, and so we should wait a couple of years and see what happens. Well, yes, it will be surrounded by the dog park fence, but that fence will remain unlocked for 24 hours. The gazebo can still be entered overnight and occupied and vandalized. People will stand in the gazebo and stare down at dog park users, intimidating them. An occupied gazebo will lead to an unused dog park, just as an occupied gazebo today leads to an unused Clark Park. Look, it's easy to do nothing, as the supporters want you to do. And nothing has been done for over 2 decades. Doing nothing will not address the park's issues. Building something to get more neighbors to use the park and drive that activity out will address the issue. Our goal is for Clark Park to be used by everyone and for everyone to feel comfortable and safe using the park. Because Clark Park sits squarely within Bayside neighborhood, I believe the views of our neighbors should carry the greatest weight when considering this bill. They are the ones who are affected the most. We strongly support this bill to remove and relocate the gazebo and to erect a dog park in Clark Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Jane, please come to the podium, followed by Jean. Jane. Okay, I'll go with Jean then, if Jane's not here.
You guys are on deck, hurry up.
Hey, easy.
I'm moving as fast as I can.
Please state your full name and
Hi.
city of residence, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
I'm Jean Seta Hewitt. I live here in Everett, and I'm the vice chair of the Historical Commission, but I'm here speaking as a resident. I'm here to support the letter that Historical Commission Chair Patrick Hall wrote regarding the demolition of the Clark Park gazebo. This letter was addressed to city council members and was unanimously approved by the Historical Commission back in April. It outlines the commission's concerns regarding the process, opinion, and concerns about the removal of the historically significant, historically contributing structure of the Clark Park gazebo, and some of the ramifications removal will have on future preservation efforts in the city of Everett. We did, as a commission, include an alternative, which included the gazebo. And in addition, I'm here to respectfully suggest the city council take a look at the original plans that had the gazebo included with the dog park. I understand the Bayside neighborhood's concerns about Clark Park, but in every meeting that we've had regarding Clark Park, the city has acknowledged that removing the gazebo is not going to change the problems in Clark Park. By adding a dog park, it will activate it. And I think that there's a way that the gazebo and the dog park can live together and keep the historical aspect of Clark Park. And I would encourage the city council members to take a look at that original plan, because I think it was a good one, and to also partner with Historic Everett to raise funds for the restoration of the gazebo. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle, could you please come to the podium, followed by Scott? And please state your full name and city of residence. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Michelle Pendergrass. I live on 23rd and Rockefeller. I'm the Democratic PCO for Precinct 13, which is Clark Park. My daughter is a senior at Everett High School, and she is the captain of the girls' tennis team, women's tennis team. And I'm a terrible public speaker. I am pro gazebo, pro dog park. I'll just, so you know where I'm coming from. And I just want to address a couple things a couple people pointed out. But before I do, just like common sense, everybody knows getting rid of the gazebo doesn't give the homeless people somewhere else to go. It doesn't give them a house. It doesn't give them a place to go on a rainy day, except under everybody's, like in the alleys, you know? And so, not that I want them to congregate at the park, but they already congregate at the park or in the alleys. And, you know, on 23rd and Rockefeller, I've had people knock on my door. I've had people poop in my yard. I've had people do all the same things that the lady who lives across the street. And I get why you people are upset, because you see it every day right in front of you when you walk outside. I also think that the park the police that come at night, sometimes they're regular police and sometimes they're police in white trucks and they're like Parks Department kind of police. At 10 p.m., we're out there playing tennis a couple times a week, and lights go off, and they kick out the homeless people who may be hanging out in the gazebo or somewhere else. But they're not always in the gazebo. Sometimes they're on the kids' equipment. So, you know, and so, like, getting rid of the park, I mean, the gazebo, it just doesn't solve any problems. But also, they do have a home court advantage at Everett High School because all the other kids aren't used to people like yelling, all the homeless people around. Like, I mean, our team is happy that that happens because they're so used to it. It's like playing football in a loud stadium. And the more privileged kids are not. But what else did I want to say? I guess I kind of covered all the main points. But the kids going to the park at lunch to buy drugs, it's going to happen whether or not there's a gazebo. It just doesn't solve any problem. And like the money it would take to tear down the gazebo just seems like extra money. Why spend that when you could spend it like putting up a porta potty and maybe people wouldn't poop in the park? It just seems so easy. It's so easy. Come on. Let's do this right. Don't just get rid of the gazebo. It's just, why spend the money? That's all I have to say.
Council
Thank you.
President?
Yes, go,
Point of order.
Councilmember Bader, go ahead.
Could we have the gentleman who keeps interrupting removed from the chamber so we can listen to the speakers appropriately, please?
I'll honor that request. Okay, moving on.
Scott, could you please come to the podium?
Come here, right now.
And please state your full name and city of residence. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, my name is Scott Sparling. I'm a resident of Everett, Bayside, I live at 23rd and Rockefeller, within a block of the park. And to follow up on something I just heard a little earlier, it jogged my realization that over the last month, maybe 2 months, I've actually seen very little crime in the park, or even just homelessness, which let's not call that a crime. But that is a point. It was much worse a while ago. Anyhow, all that said, I stand in support of maintaining the presence of the gazebo. Removing the gazebo does not remove criminal behavior. It simply moves criminal behavior. No root causes are addressed. It's a Band-Aid. And it has the unfortunate side effect of misleading the community to believe homelessness has been addressed and solved. That's not progress. Most of the complaints I hear are social service and law enforcement concerns and should be addressed as such directly, rather than using the guise of the necessity of a dog park, which I do support, to push social service and crime issues somewhere else. And I also can only imagine that the introduction of a dog park would, to some degree, mitigate some of the criminal behavior that is there, though again, that still is just moving it around, but I would think that would placate some of the residents who are complaining about seeing criminal behavior. And that is about all I've got. And again, my daughter's a tennis captain. She and her friends are not intimidated to go play tennis at night. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public comments.
Great, and I'll read in for the record. Item number 12, Council Bill 2405-08, first reading. Adopt ordinance creating a special improvement project entitled Clark Park Renovation and Off-Leash Dog Area, Fund 354, Program 101, to accumulate all costs for the project. Third and final reading, June 5th, 2024. At this point, I'll take comments or questions from council members. Councilmember Vogely.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone who spoke and wrote in. And I'm on the fence, just so you know, so I have a few different things to bring up. First, what I had said earlier, and I believe what a few people said here, can we get the numbers that have been talked about but not seen? And I think I already heard a yes from Director Leonard, so thank you. I have this really cool book called The History of Everett Parks, A Century of Service and Vision. And Clark Park is, of course, the first piece in here, and I'm not gonna read it to you, but it's only got one page anyways. And so I have a bit of a timeline according to this book that was published in 1989, but, it talks about the bandstand, and so this is kind of a history question. The bandstand was removed in 79, but in 1915, all it says here is that there were some amenities. So as I continue going along, was the bandstand just the rectangular part outside of the gazebo? So the bandstand was added to the gazebo and then removed? Or when was the gazebo built? Are they one and the same? History, please.
Bob Leonard, Parks and Facilities Director. The gazebo has been called the bandstand. We believe that the gazebo that is in Clark Park right now is the original to the park, or there closely thereafter. There was another bandstand that was put into the park and then removed probably about 20 years after it was put in.
I have a picture. I don't know the gazebo well enough, but there's a rectangular part outside of the gazebo. So I just want people to see this, and I want to make sure we have the proper history. And I know that the people that write the history are the ones that get to, or the winners get to write it. That's how it goes. So if it was indeed built in 1915, the gazebo, and then the bandstand was added on, and then it was taken down in 79, that's just a bit confusing to me. So I want to know the real actual history, and it looks like it's on the internet, and I could look that up, but you know, this book was here. So,
Just to be clear, Councilmember,
Yes.
the bandstand, there was a separate, not attached structure that was called the bandstand at some point in time that was removed. But the gazebo has been called the bandstand as well, to confuse matters over time.
well, I am thoroughly confused, so thank you. Yes, thank you for real. Let's see, and apparently in 1927, there was tennis courts added, and then in 35, they were lighted for night play, and then 1938, there were 4 tennis courts, 2 volleyball courts, and then in 1954, the tennis courts were resurfaced for dancing and roller skating, which I wish we did have a roller skating place, because that would be awesome. I don't like to fall on the gravel. Like I said, in 1979, the bandstand was demolished and the wood was used for a sauna in Forest Park, which we're probably not using right now because the pool is closed. And then in 1981, half of the park was given to the Everett School District, and in 86, there was fitness fans put in place for the people that didn't want to be hot, that were playing tennis and enjoying the gazebo. So, I just want to put that out there, and it's all from a little book that, you know, Public Works was handing out at some point. So knowing all of that, knowing the different people's visions for this park and arguments, they're just all really good. You know, I can see it all. And I also have some. Okay, this is getting into a narrative, not questions. So I want the actual history, and I will look that up, but also if people can give it to me, that would be great. And I want to see the finances for what it would cost to demolish. I would like to be certain, and I know we talked about it a little bit off, you know, not up here, that it really will be taken down carefully and put somewhere. I think it would be fine, personally, to remove it and place it in another park in the city of Everett. And I hear that there's some money that could go forward with that. So like I said, I'm on the fence, and I think that the finance part of it, the budget, really needs to be finitely known to all of us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Ryan.
Great, thank you. I would also like a itemization of the costs, please, that'd be wonderful. There were some questions and concerns about the process and the route that this went through the Historic Commission and the certificate of appropriateness and the waiver of certificate of appropriateness. I was hoping some folks could address that.
I can say a few words about that. The planning director determined that the certificate of appropriateness was the proper route because this was considered a site rather than a structure. And in fact, the recommendation from the Historic Commission when this was first placed on the Historic Register noted that it will be the first non-structure site to be put on the register. So the analysis was, and I supported him with an April 17 memo, which I believe is in your packet. The analysis was that this is an alteration of a site, which is best dealt with a certificate of appropriateness. I understand there are arguments that it could have gone the other way, but this was the planning director's conclusion, and I thought it was the right conclusion.
Thanks. Yeah, our packet just has the ordinance itself. So if we could include the plans that include Clark Park, the letter from the attorney, the letter from the Historic Commission. I think there's a whole packet that could be included for public record to go along with this. That'd be great.
You do have the letter from the Historic Commission, but
It's not part of the agenda online. There's only like 2 pages online.
I'll definitely get the April 17th memo.
Great. And then I guess a concern that I have is what was the purpose of going to the Historic Commission if their perspectives and their input was not honored?
I'm just going to say from my perspective, I do think that we did make some alterations to the design. We did go there looking for input from the Historical Commission. While we didn't get a formal declaration of input, definitely a lot of input was heard. We added a lot of the design elements around the sally ports, like the posts, beams, corbels, adding the historical marker. We made a lot of changes based on input that we heard from the Historical Commission. I think as Chair Hall says in the letter, I don't know that I would ever expect the Historical Commission to, really be the advocates for removal of something like this. So, but I still think we wanted to hear what the Historical Commission had to say, and hopefully, if this were to move forward, the idea would be that we would be able to make the best of the situation and be able to mitigate as best as possible for the loss of the gazebo.
And is there a possibility to alter the plans for the park to incorporate the gazebo? Because we've seen one set of plans, but to me it seems like as a commenter mentioned, the fence could shift one way or the other, or there could be the skirt on the side, or I see that it's a design, so it could be drawn in a multitude of different ways. So is there a possibility that the gazebo could be a sally port for folks to come in and out, and it could be part of the overall project?
We've been working with the Bayside neighborhood for quite a long time, several years, 7-ish years probably off and on. We have had a lot of different designs that include, even the number of the original 400,000, that was including not just the remodel, but this shuttered type of thing where the gazebo was gonna stay but could be closed off. The dog park was added. You heard the Bayside neighborhood talk about wanting to have a dog park there. I think that the plan we have forward is the best thing for the park. Talking about shrinking it and then leaving the gazebo there would have to be discussed further. But we think that this would be maybe not solve all of the problems of Bayside or of Clark Park, but definitely be transformative for the park.
Yeah.
I know, I'm sorry, don't mean to interrupt, but I know part of the analysis was that since it is the historic park that is on the register, that the gazebo has been such a hub of negative behavior that it interferes with the use of what is the historic park. And keeping the gazebo actually interferes with the use of the neighborhood and the community of the actual historic park.
Yeah, I hear a lot. I mean, I've heard a lot of comments. I appreciate everybody coming out and letting their voices be heard. But, and you hear a lot of fond memories of what Clark Park was. And then you hear comments about what Clark Park is, and it's not the same. And we are really looking to work with the Bayside neighborhood to really try to bring that historic nature of what Clark Park, what everybody really remembers Clark Park as, back to the city of Everett.
Yeah, and I think the Bayside neighborhood does get a lot of kudos for the work that they've done to activate the park. And I think that the dog park and the constant activation of the park is wonderful for just the constant activation of the park and making sure that it's being properly utilized at all times. So just want to put that out there as well. I've mentioned a few times what I see as a common sense and a practical solution to make sure that everybody's perspectives are being heard and incorporated into a solution of designating the gazebo as surplus property and then going through our usual process with a surplus property to auction it off to a bidder. And I haven't heard if that's been seriously considered. And I think it would be great to give an opportunity for preservationists to step in and take the helm and the responsibility of the removal of the gazebo and the ownership of the gazebo, and that it also meets the needs of the neighborhood to have the gazebo removed and just have the activated dog park. So I would love to have an answer for if that's a possibility.
I could say to that, first of all, I think it was also mentioned about how it was going to be deconstructed. Right now, the plan is to carefully deconstruct it, palletize it, and put like a shrink wrap or kind of plastic covering over that so that it could be stored safely and protected. But I do think the city would like the opportunity to try to do something with the gazebo. We don't want the gazebo just to go away and be forgotten. We would love the opportunity. As I mentioned in my presentation, we will try to reutilize the gazebo. And if for some reason we are unable, I think that we still don't lose the opportunity to then look for partners to work with to do something with the gazebo in the future.
I would think that a group like Historic Everett would also be amazing caretakers for the gazebo as well, and they would be carefully taking care of it and utilizing it in a historically appropriate way.
Totally appreciate that. I think I used Everett Museum just because they've been great partners with us in the past. We have a great track record of working with them, with the Van Valley House, the old bookmobile, those types of things. So I think I use them, but we'd be looking to utilize a partner. We haven't chosen a partner. I've been saying, hopefully we get to, that's what we're really looking forward. We really want to be able to reutilize it, the city itself. But if we couldn't for some reason, we would definitely entertain partners.
Okay. Let's see. I believe that is all my questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody who came tonight. We've heard a lot over the last few months and for years about Clark Park. Appreciate you all coming, really do. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Bowley, question for.
It really is a question. I was curious, and I'm looking at the map right now, but anyways, maybe you know offhand. Loganberry Lane, the dog park over there, do you know how big it is in comparison? And I know it's getting bigger because there's gonna be on leash and off leash. So maybe for next time, can we get a comparison of size?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, no further business. Meeting's adjourned.